Okay, so we're going to go directly into the psukim. I brought a bit more psukim than usual, but I'm not going to go into the psukim with you here. It'll be too long. I just want to explain a state of mind and just look at the pshat of the psukim. I want to bring, the confrontation, if I can call it that way, between Avraham and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it really makes no sense. We're going to tear it apart from every possible angle. The Lashon is very, very difficult. Vayomer Hashem, Zakas doim va'amira ki Rabbah. Kadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham. Now, the screams of Sodom va'amira is enormous. V'chatasam ki chavda me'od. And they're also heavy sinners. Erdana ve'ere, I will please going down and see. Haketzar kasa, if it's like a scream. Look at the difference of Lashon here. Tzaka, and Zakas here. Just to pay attention. One is with the tzaddik, one is with the zayin. Why do you change? If I have time, I get there. Haba elai asu. Now, this pasuk, very hard to read. You can only translate it through the Unkelos or the Targum Yonasan. Here you have to put a comma. Then you have to put another comma here. And then you can read the pasuk. So, Erdana ver'e. So, the Zakar comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to ask the questions a bit later. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not relying upon it. He says, let's go see, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't know, right? So he has to go and check. Then it says the Lashon Vayigash Avraham. Avraham, like Vayigash Yehuda. When Yehuda wanted to fight Yosef, you use the Lashon Vayigash. When there are three meanings to it. Tefillah, there is Milchama, and there is also a trade. Vayoymar, and he said to Hashem, Ha'af tispe tzadikim rasha? Will you kill a tzaddik with a rasha? How can you do that? You know mostly the rest by heart, then Avraham is going to come if there are 50 tzaddikim. This part I'll go as I go along in the shir. Here I just want to explain who's Doeg va'amira, what's the chet is, and how did they reach such a verdict to be exterminated in such a brutal way? We see a difference when Moshe Rabbeinu, after the Egel davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he davened in a matter of supplication. Avraham Avinu comes, Vayigash. He wants to fight the Midas Adin. There is a din in Shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu applies, he's a Shofet Kol Haaretz, he applies the din. There is a book of laws, and those laws have to be applied. We're going to peel out exactly who these Doim are, and you're going to realize that they have not stolen the punishment. Rashi brings down. Why did Avraham stop begging for them, for their lives, till they were till 10? Because he knew that in the Mabul, only Noach, his children, and his daughter-in-laws were tzaddikim, which were 8, and he couldn't save, because of that, the whole generation. So you need 10 tzaddikim in order to save a generation. So it's part of the laws. So what do you have to come and intercede for them? For sure, if there were 10, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have saved the whole world. Wouldn't he save a city? Especially if there are 50? Why did Avraham start with 50? That's also we're going to explain, but as we get along. How can Avraham not know that already with 10 HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the 10 tzaddikim the schus can save a whole entire world, a whole entire generation. Kol sheken that they can save Sodom v'Amorah. And why do you want to save those people, Avraham? They're exactly your opposite. You do Chesed, they rise against Chesed. They despise Chesed. They were killing people that were doing Chesed. They were killing people that were receiving Chesed. As the Gemara brings down in Sanhedrin, with the story of the daughter of Lot, that one time she went to the river and she saw her friend emaciated and everything. So she said, "What's the problem? What do you look like this?" He said, "We have no more food home." So she knew that if she would get caught, she would die. So what was she doing? She was filling her jug, yeah, right, of water, which she was with flour, and exchanging it with her friend's one, and so she would bring back water home while she gave her flour so they could eat. And the people of Sodom were wondering what happened. All of a sudden, this guy can leave. By them, they let them die. They had not 1 ounce of Rachmanus. How would they kill them? There's a few shittas in the Rishonim, in the Tanaim. Would they throw them in the fire, or would they drown them in the river? We'll see as we're going to get along. We have a cloud. Shoifech dam ha'adam. We learned this pasuk already through Darya Kodesh. Shoifech dam ha'adam, the one who spills the blood of a person, even an animal. Ba'adam damoy yishafech. His blood will be spilled by a person too. So we know already that it's impossible to forgive the chet. It's in the teva, it's in nature. A person that has spilled blood will die. Like Cain. He spilled the blood of Hevel, he got killed. He's going to have a brutal end. The pasuk says also, that's for the person. Vela aretz lo yechupar. Now he has to bury. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the land to accept the dead. It will be no kapara ladam asher shufach ba ki im bedam shavcho. I should have said write the rest of the pasuk. The only way the land which is the Malchus stop asking for the din on this person, is when his blood is spilled. Avraham, I would understand you ask mercy on Reshaim. I don't understand you ask mercy on murderers. You should share it. When Reshaim die, it's a happiness because they brought misery to this world. They brought misery to the people. The Midrash says in Kohelet Rabbah, someone who has mercy on achzarim, on people, I don't know how to say achzarim to give you a word for it, but people that show no mercy.
Cruel.
Cruel, thank you. So once someone has pity on cruels, he will turn himself and do worse than these cruel people. And we learn this from who? From Shaul. Shaul had Rachmanus on the Melech Agag, the king of Amalek. He didn't kill him. It turns out to be that later on, after he was pursuing David, and someone said Lashon Hara to him that he was hiding by the Kohanim in the city of Doeg, he sent his army and he killed every Kohen. Worse than the way he behaved for Amalek. For Amalek, he kept the animals, he kept the woman, he kept the king. For Noiv Ira Kohanim, he killed the men, the women, and the children. Nothing was alive after he passed on. So how come Avraham, you're showing mercy on such cruel people? It makes no sense. And you come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a very brazen way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you what it is. You're not accepting it. Why aren't you accepting it? So from every angle we look at it, the behavior of Avraham Avinu is extremely strange. So we have to start going inside a little bit deeper. Pitied Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer Agado is going to tell us what was Doeg. Who were these people? What was this land? Rabbi Eliezer Agado says they were extremely rich. Why? Because there was sand of gold everywhere. And when someone would send his slave to go cut a salad in the yard, he would come back with the salad and with the big pieces of gold. Somehow when the salad was growing, the gold was coming out and growing also. Sometimes they would find gems under the salad. So they couldn't spend the money at the pace of what they were finding. They were enriching themselves non-stop. And he ends up with the pasuk in Tehillim, Haboitchim al cheilam uveroiv oshra. And the Asher has a bigger nisayon than the Ani, because he has a kesef ya'ane esakoil. With money, you can answer everything. And therefore, you have tendency to rely upon your money, a rich person, and think that you don't need any more, chas v'shalom, to be soymech on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't need to rely on him. But the question is, if you start thinking down that path, you basically defending the Anshe Sodom. You're defending the people of Sodom. You're giving an excuse to their behavior. It's because of the wealth that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them. It's not their fault. Partially their fault, but not completely their fault that the Midas Hadin has to go all the way on them. It's because of the wealth that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them. If you take the word Oisher, I'm going to show you until you get warmed up. So, if we take the word, let's go here. In the Torah, Oisher is written like this, without Vav. You turn the letters, it's called Russia. Very easy for Ashir to turn as a Russia. And therefore, now you, the Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, you basically seems like you give them a path to defend themselves. And the Gemara says in Sanhedrin Kuftes Amud Aleph that the Anshe Sodom, they have no chelek in Olam Haba, and they lost completely. They were Ra'im v'Chataim. They had the two levels, meaning in this world and in the next world. They had no way to recoup them. Why not? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, then I would understand Avraham, why he's fighting for them. It's not their fault, but then say it. If you don't say it, meaning you have something else in mind. What do you have in mind? What do you... So the pitied Rabbi Eliezer keeps on explaining what was the chet of the Anshe Sodom. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says because they were not feeding the poor. Even the birds, they would not allow. They had such a hatred. They despised so much the midah of Chesed that they topped all their fruit trees so birds wouldn't come and feed in their city. Mamish, the opposite of Avraham, and Avraham, instead of despising them, no, he puts himself in danger because he talks apparently from the pshat of the pasuk in a manner that's not acceptable to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's not a tefillah. I'm going to show you something. We took Oisher. If we take now Ashirus, where am I? Where is he not writing? Oh. Ashirus. Equal, change the letters, Rishus. No matter this word, no matter how you're going to take it, you're going to come to the same thing, even in Gematrias. We'll see. This equals to 976. Equals Edom, Yishmael, Erev Rav. We look at Anshe Sodom as being from another planet. Not at all. There's abundance. These people have used the very chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them, that there's so much wealth in their land, and with that they turn to make one of the biggest chataim, the biggest chataim that ever been on the face of earth. Killing the poor aniyim just because they come and beg for food. Or because they accepted food. You know exactly how the daughter of Lot died. They attached her on the rooftop and they pour honey on her, and with the stings of all the wasps, she died. But how long it took her, how much she suffered, how much she screamed. Rashi explained that's the scream that HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard. That was enough. You see the cruelty of these people. And you wonder, where does Avraham Avinu find the heart to daven for them, to save them? So 1 second, Avraham Avinu, instead of having mercy on these people, have mercy on the victims. On the Aniyim, on the Evyonim, on the Almanas, on the Yesoimim, that they were cruelly killed. How can you have Rachmanus on the perpetrator of such ignominious crimes? And you come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with what seems to be chutzpah and try to defend them? What's the reason? But what I wanted to point here, don't you think it's them? Today is exactly the same. Oh, it seems people give tzedakah. It seems, because it remains right there. There's abundance. Look, we never had in the world people rich as we have reached today. And I don't believe a second they give money for the mitzvah, for the purpose of helping someone. They give money for themselves. Just for the cover. And that's why we still are in the Edom and the Yishmael, and most in the Am Yisrael today that rules us is Erev Rav. Because of these riches. And that's the riches you see. Even organizations of Chesed, whatever. Let's stop right here. Rabnu Bachye comes and explains the chet of the Anshe Sodom. And he says along the lines, but he's gonna add a layer along the lines of the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, because of the way they were behaving with the poor people. They will let them rot to death without feeding them. And that's a tremendous death. No water and no food. And that's the word Ra'im v'chataim. They had no mercy. They had a person that would see, even if it's only a citizen from the same country, he would have Rahmanus, but not them. Even on their own people, if you didn't have money anymore, it's too bad. He dies like this. And that's the reason, explains Rabbeinu Bachye, because he goes into the words Roim and Chataim, not feeding and not providing water, as being the reason why they deserve such a harsh punishment. Actually, the Zohar seems to explain it the same way. Because in Yeshaya, there's a pasuk, and I'm going to go quick on this because I'm going a little bit out. I just mentioned it, but I want to bring a tremendous yesod here. The pasuk in Yeshaya says, Shimu Elai, listen to me, Abir Elev. the way to Abir Elev, it's the confident people. You know, rich people are usually confident because they rely on their money. Harechoikim mitzedakah. The Navi warns them that these people are burying themselves, and that's the way the Zohar with that pasuk explained ve'anshes doim ra'im v'chatoim. If you take just the beginning of the pasuk, just to explain the Zohar in a different perspective, it's very interesting. The very pasuk is trying to explain, so this equals 7:12. One less than tshuva. And you'll see how this word will come back. Mamish the pasuk, Ra'im v'chatoim. L'Hashem me'oid, with the touch of the, we had now Zei Ani ve'Evyon. That the Mamish the touch, the Zer also goes along those lines. 7:12 equals that the very pasuk he came to explain, and also the explanation he gave that they were not feeding the poor. Ani and Evyon is 2 levels of poor. What is Harechoikim mitzedakah? This equals 608, if I remember, equal MS in full. Aleph, Mem, Saf. Now, this is the yesod I want to bring here. We think HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a mitzvah of tzedakah. By the way, the word tzedakah means justice. Doesn't mean kindness or any of these adjectives. Nothing like this. It's justice. Giving to someone else, when you receive from someone else, it's called justice. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you to be a shliach to help someone else. It didn't happen in a vacuum that an ani knocks on your door. It doesn't happen that way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending you a message. Sodom v'Amorah received a tremendous present. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu said in the pasuk there were 5 cities in this area of Sodom v'Amorah? Why do we only mention these 2 and usually only Sodom? But why in this pasuk Sodom v'Amorah? Because Sodom v'Amorah equals 425, equals chut shel chesed. There was a chut shel chesed going down to this place. That's why it was flourishing and it was so rich. And they were unable to be mashpia. The same way HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they haven't done anything on their own. The land was growing on its own, the food. In Yecheskel, the pasuk says the bread was coming out of that land. Why? Because there was a chut shel chesed shining upon that land. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the ability to help without even denting their wealth. So why you, Avraham? Why would you David? Especially the Targum Yonasan learns the pasuk here. So we're going to wait. Remember, I put 2 commas. Now let me read you the pasuk according to Targum Yonasan. I will go down and see if indeed the chataim they have done and the cruelty they have done is exactly as the Midas Hadin says it. That's Haba Eli Asu, like the Midas Hadin that come to prosecute them. I want to make sure that it happened that way. And if it did, Kala, I finish them all. Clear means exterminate them. Says Targum Yoinasan, no. And says the Onkelos the same thing. For sure, the Midas Hadin won't change an ounce of the reality. So what is it? If they did tshuva. So first he said, if they didn't do tshuva, I exterminate them. Ve'im loi, but if not, meaning if they already did tshuva, I will not exterminate them. I will expiate their sin through Yisurim. I can't explain more about this because we saw the pasuk. Once a person has done certain sins that takes him above and beyond the threshold of this world and the upper world that manage this world, there's no way he can come back. So how can they be saved from the din? Need to be explained. And once they've done that, even with the tefillah of Avraham Avinu, what do you expect from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? To invent new halachas for you in order to save them? How can he save them? They put themselves out of this world, as we're going to see. In the Der Mabul says the Zohar HaKadosh, it says, Vayar Hashem ki Rabbah, ki Rabbah. Same language as the Zakas Doim Va'amora ki Rabbah. The Zohar points out that. Meaning that they've done also, they haven't done only, what we mentioned before, that they were not doing it in tzedakah and they were killing, but they did also the chet of the people of the Mabul, of that generation. Meaning they innovated. The other guys were basically backwards. They were only doing certain chataim. No, by Sodom, they went far beyond that. Says the Zohar, a Yesod, but the way he says it, we're going to see again another Yesod coming out here. A person, it doesn't matter how much, but once a person decides to do one chet, when Chazal say Aveira Gereres Aveira, it's not just a saying. Is once the person from his own choice decided to do Aveira, to satisfy his need, to satisfy his ego, to whatever he's done, the Satan is allowed to take the same amount of Tuma and throw at him. In other words, that person was expecting he can carry on his back 100 pounds, so he did the Aveira of 50 pounds. The Satan will throw another 50 pounds at him. That person won't realize, oh my gosh, I can carry anymore, but it's not supposed to be that way. No, that's the din in Shamayim. If you follow the Yetzer Hara, don't worry, my friend. He'll give you the hand very, very easily. But their din was sealed only when they started. So they tried, until this time they were innovating in Chatoim non-stop. We're going to see why. We're going to go into their minds. We're going to go into their philosophy, understand what they wanted, because everything is said in those words, in those psukim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Avraham. And if I have time, I'll give you the answer, what Avraham said, which is millions of light years from what it seems coming out from the pasuk. Millions of light years, or years light, whatever. I'm going to start answering because we're going to have to go quite deep, and I don't want to lose you here. The Gemara says in Yoma, Omar Rabbi Elazar, son of Hashem Bar Yochai, says, the world was created even for one man. The same way it was created for Adam Arishon, and he was the only man. Every tzaddik, and he brings the pasuk as a proof, Vayara Elohim es ha'oyer ki tov. And tov always refer to tzaddik. We know, we've learned in depth what is tov, what is sod, you know, the how do we multiply it, and everything. We have learned this, but let's go today in this shir, let's go simple. The tzaddik is called tov because a person can only be a tzaddik only for if he does one thing. There's no million of mitzvahs by tzaddik. There's only one. Today we were thinking, oh, this guy, what a tzaddik. Look at his tefillah. Look at it. No. Tzaddik means so that he's holding the midah of Yesod. That's what tzaddik is. Tzaddik is someone who's been able to conquer the midah of Yesod. Like Yosef HaTzadik, the Zohar goes ballistic on Yosef HaTzadik, why, and why he was, you know, maybe on the Shabbos shir. When someone is tested below the belt and he overcomes the nisayon, is considered a tzaddik. At that point, Vayar Elohim es ha'oyer ki tov. He deserves the light. Why? Because the Yesod, ki shemesh u'magen Hashem. The Yesod is called shemesh, the sun. The sun that's bright and shines upon earth is the Yesod. He's not perfect on the rest. I know. He's not a tzaddik Yesod olam. There's a tzaddik and a tzaddik Yesod olam. Tzaddik Yesod olam, for you to understand, is a tzaddik that the Gemara speaks in Yoma, Rabbi Elazar. Tzaddik Yesod olam equals 430, 5 times Elohim. How much did they need the Bnei Israel to be in Mitzrayim? 430 years, 5 times Elohim. They remained less because what? They kept the Yesod. They understood. The only reason that they have to suffer in Mitzrayim, it's because of the Chet, of the Mabul, and of Sodom with the Yesod. So they decided, hey, enough. And they behaved differently. Right away, they got out. Right away. So we see that a lot of the suffering of the person is associated with the Yesod, especially if he has no oil. Ki Rabbah. How much is Rabbah? Rabbah is 207, is oil. But the pasuk tells us, Zaka Sodom va'Amorah ki Rabbah. These people knew exactly Dari HaKodesh in Pri Etz Chaim mamish at the very beginning of Chag HaMatzos. That's how it's called in Etz Chaim. Perek Aleph, mamish, the very beginning of Chag HaMatzos. He comes and says, explain that the Bnei Yisrael that had to go to Mitzrayim with the neshamas of these 4 doilers. 4 generations. And they had to go through that in order for redemption, because they were huge neshamas. But he explained that the chet of Adam HaRishon was so great that the temptation was tremendous in that time, and they could not overcome it. Despite being big neshamas, beside understanding, they were chachamim gdolim, says the Ari HaKodesh. Not like us, little peewees, but they were chachamim gdolim, and they innovated in the sins to keep on. They did not want the light. And we're going to understand. When he said, I think I'm going to go closer to the pasuk rather than giving it by heart, like this, on the air. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, so he was here. I'm going to take pasuk by pasuk because I brought this up. I wanted to escape it. Me, when I see words, I cannot escape words. The light is in the words. Zakas equals 577. Equal Midas Hadin that wanted the din. That's all. We said, why? Because Doim va'amoira equals 425 equals foot shel chesed. We said Rabbah equals 207 equals oil. V'chatasam ki chavda me'oid equals 570 equals ratio. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avraham. There's nothing to do for these people. They really don't want the light. I gave them everything. I gave them the chut shel chesed. And all they do in that word is included all the chatoim. We know quite a bit about it already. Says the Zohar here that when a person does tzedakah, because tzedakah, the midah of tzedakah is also, what do you do with tzedakah? So you will be able to guess it. What do? You have something that's yours and you give it to someone else. You're basically acting like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has everything and he gives to people. That's tzedakah. So tzedakah is also in the Yesod. It's also a way to attain the midah of Yesod. So says, and the Yesod is called Shalom. So when someone tzedakah, he's getting also the midah of Shalom. These two he gets together. Okay, what does the Zera mean? Because these two equals 575 equals Yetzer Hara. In other words, a person that has temptation should try to give more tzedakah, because the only way he can face a malach of fire, it's not a human cannot fight a malach of fire. But yes, a Jew can. How? Through tzedakah. But these people don't want to do it. They want bedafka the Yetzirah. Avraham Avinu told the Bnei Israel 2 midas. It says in the pasuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu called Avraham Avinu Oyehavi. The Midrash says, Ki yedativ, because I know that Avraham Avinu will teach his children and his house after him to keep tzedakah umishpat. That's when we say Avraham Avinu was Chesed, yes, but he was a measured Chesed, always doing it with mishpat behind, and that's what he left for the Bnei Israel. And he taught us with these 2 midas, you will always be saved. Equals 634. If you take the word equals or in full, Aleph, Vav, Reish, 634. Bnei Israel against everything that's choshech. We can't stand darkness. We love light. We are attracted by light. But Reshaim, they're always attracted by darkness. And that's and they know what the light is. And don't think they don't enjoy the sunshine and everything. They do, but the taivas, they can fulfill them only in the darkness, and that's why the dark choshech is always the derech of the Reshaim. Before I move forward, I want to remind the question on the beginning of this passage. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Erdana ve'ere. This is trouble. How can HaKadosh Baruch Hu have a suffix? Or what's the purpose if obviously he has no suffix? He knows exactly. So for what reason will he go down to check? Even if they've done tshuva, he knows. And he knows they haven't done tshuva because the midas adin is right there. And even without the midas adin, he knows. There's nothing. There's not a millimeter, even a fraction of this that's free from HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. So what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu intending to say? Rashi explained something very simple. Rashi explained that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to teach the Dayanim that you never, ever pasken a din of a capital din, I want to say, meaning deciding someone would be put to death, chas v'sham, without going in person and seeing the whole matzav yourself. Because maybe through that, you will come to defend, find an excuse for the perpetrator and avoid killing him. I have a question. I understand. Great idea. We have 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. From where? All mishpatim, we learn the Hilchos Dayanim, all pertaining to the halachas of Beis Din. Everything is based on the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why Torah is 611 plus the 2 that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. That's all. This encompasses all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Why is that mitzvah not written in the Torah? Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to teach us in a way it's not even explicit in the pasuk? You have to go and understand from yourself, because if you don't ask yourself a question, you don't understand. So why is it Rashi? If that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to teach us, he should have said either explicitly, but more so, he should have said somewhere in the parsha of Mishpatim, when he talk about the Dayanim, what they have to do, how they have to behave, and so forth. Also, in the pasuk, the end of the pasuk will have to explain it, because here it reminds us, Haketzakasa haba elai asu. And when the Malachim talked to Lot, they told him, Ki gadla tzakasam, theirs. Meaning, you're not part of them. Espenei Hashem. I can explain why all of a sudden they're using the word. Hashem used the word zakas, tzakas, tzakasam. And then they said, Espenei Hashem. What it means, I don't know. You can translate Es Penei Hashem. El Penei Hashem, too. It's almost saying the face of Hashem. Ki gadla tzakasam, the scream is so big, the face of Hashem. You're missing a verb. You're missing an adverb here. You're missing something. No, it's so big that it reached the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Something like this in that sense. But what does it mean? So it's not really so simple. We see now that the pasuk has changed his language from zaka to tzaka. He wants to teach us something. And he says the same thing in other words here. Haba'a Eli, that came to before me. What do you mean that came before you? But you said it already, but now you're going to go check if they're really the deeds are exactly. This pasuk is amazing. So let's go try to understand a little bit deeper, and we're going to see something which is that's exactly on this will Avraham build up the defense. Mamish, on the last words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the pasuk, he's going to turn them around and build a complete defense for those people. But again, then we're going to have a half a question. How do you have mercy on murderers? But one thing at a time. I don't know if I have really a lot of time for this. Too bad. I'm going to go one notch deeper. The Zohar is going to take that pasuk to explain us the chet of Sodom and the oynesh of Sodom. Paratz Nachal. I'm going to go directly with the Zohar. I'm not going to go ask question on this pasuk. It's a pasuk that cannot be translated. So it's one of those. There's so many of those. Explain the Zohar what it means. Paratz Nachal. The river opened up. Anyone that would give tzedakah would be drowned. And anyone who received tzedakah would be drowned. Me'im gar, from any stranger that would receive any tzedakah would be killed. Hanishkachim mini ragel. They became forgotten from the feet. Explained the Zohar. People used to go around Sodom. They were scared. They would much rather sleep in the midbar, which is a possible death, rather than going into Sodom that was an assured death. And the last three words, I will wait, hold on a second in order to explain them. And Mida keneged Mida, now I'm taking the Metzudos. Paratz Nachal, from Shamayim, opened up a Nachal of Gofris Va'esh, of sulfur and fire, inundated them. Those who forgot to give tzedakah to strangers. That's the way the Zohar will explain the pasuk, and the Metzudos open the pasuk. So the Metzudos goes to the Oynesh, explain this pasuk as being the retributions of the acts of the cruelty, while the Zohar explained the Oynesh through that pasuk. I repeat. Paratz Nachal, they were drowning the person who would give tzedakah and the person who would receive tzedakah. Meimgar, for any stranger. Hanishkachim mini ragel, that there were no feet, external feet coming into those city. Not even birds, said the Zohar. They were scared of being killed. Even birds understood that these people were so cruel that then when they would pass by the city, they would kill them. The Rama Mipano here comes and explains what did Avraham mean when he says if they had 50 tzaddikim. He said for 50 tzaddikim, you have to give them full mechila. Rama Mipano. He was asking for full exemption from anything, meaning you don't kill them and you don't give them yisurim. Pashut kapara. But if you're missing 5, because there were, so Rashi explains, there were 5 cities, and 50 is 10 per city. I'm giving you the pshat at the same time. But we're gonna go with the side on this. But it works both ways, with the side and with the pshat. So I'm giving you both. Rashi says 5 city, 10 per city, they're saving the city. Now the 45, why did he say the number 45? Because it's 9 per city, plus the Shechina with them, it's 10. But in that case, you're going to see the language will start changing between every number. It says, Loi ashchis. Killing, I won't kill. But Yisurim, I will give them. And that's what explained the Rama Mipano, that Avraham said twice, Chalila, Chalila, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning Chalila for killing, Chalila for Yisurim, meaning you have to be mechaper completely. If there were 50. Now says the Rama, if there were 30, he doesn't say lo yashkis, lo yese. Explain the Rama, mipano, that because 3 out of 5 is the rov, so he goes according to the majority, and in the majority of the cities, there's a 30 tzaddikim, so he says lo yese means nothing. The bomber question here. This lo yese, I understand the touch. I understand the diktuk, that your Hashem has changed his lashon from, actually it's in 40 also. In 40, it says lo yese. But in 45, it says lo yashchis. I mean, come on. How can you explain that? That for 45, there's 5 more tzaddikim, and then it's not only it's not going to help, it's going to be worse. Because if there were only 40, they would have no Yisurim. Now they're 45, they're going to have Yisurim. What kind of a logic is that, Rama Mipano? It defies the logic. Again, 50 complete kapara, 40 complete kapara. But 45, no. Only death. They're exempt from death, but they're going to have Yisurim. And you're going to see that game going on with the 5s and the how can you explain this? This is a bomb question. I'm going to jump to the conclusion. I'm going to try best Hashem to bridge that. The 50 tzaddikim, Avraham Avinu comes like this. He's telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there are 2 ways to reach the Bina. The Bina is Olam HaTorah. If you learn, you reach the Bina. Lishma, as we saw it before. You can reach the Bina with a true tshuva, tshuva ila'a, which is a tshuva, a high tshuva. You reach the Bina because the Bina is Olam HaTshuva. But there's also 50 shearim in the Bina. There are 50 gates of the Bina. And when there are 50 tzaddikim in a place in the world, the 50 gates of the Bina are open. And life comes from the Bina. When we said in Rosh Hashanah, Zachrenu lechaim melech chafetz b'chaim, kozvenu b'sefer chaim, Eloikim chaim. Who is Eloikim chaim? Who is melech chafetz b'chaim? It's the Bina. Because life means no problems. Otherwise, it's not life. A person who leaves the 4, the without children, the ani, and so forth, they're considered dead. So their life is not alive. Because otherwise they would not be dead alive. The true life has oil, has light. So when Avraham Avinu told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you blessed me. Before I left Haran, you blessed me. I have a koyach, you gave it to me. The koyach habracha, you gave it to me. Therefore, I choose who I say. And here, I'm asking you by your din, that on 50, I don't have to ask for nothing. It's the din that they should get Chaim and not Misa, because they are the number 50. The proof to that is when it says tzakosam equals 700. Va'avarcha mevarchecha umkalelcha ha'oir equals 700. This is where Avraham saw an opening to come and defend the Anshe Doeg. Obviously, if they don't receive the chet, the punishment, how are they going to get a tikkun? Obviously, that's another level of question to go deeper, but time is running out. And this is not a share for an hour and a half share. This is the type of 3-hour share to go all the way down and then see the light. How did we not see that in the pasuk? That's how, after that, you're asking yourself, how did we not see that in the words? It's obvious. That's the pshat. Anyway, we do with what we have. And that's what he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that seems chutzpahdik, lo yisisa lamakom. And you would not forgo the chet. Lo yisisa lamakom equals 700. Avraham Avinu said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yes, you have a taina. Yes, you have a tzaka that reached the level of all the 7 midos in this world. Yes, 100%. But my midah that you gave me is also 700, and I can erase it. What should you do? You should turn them into my midah, Afar and Afer. Afar and Afer equals 631. What's the lashon in the pasuk that equals 631? I don't remember. Let me check here. 631. Ha'af tispe tzadik im rasha. Ha'af tispe. Because that's another question. It doesn't say ha'im tispe. Are you going to kill? No, ha'af. Af, we know it's the anger. He says, what would you want to kill them? Save them. What is Afar and Afer? If you want to plant, to grow a new plant, you put a seed either in soil or in ashes, and you'll see it growing. Hashem, break the gaiva. Take away what you gave them. It does not help them. That's the taina of Avraham Avinu. You don't have to kill them to make them do tshuva. You just have to remove the very reason of why they became like this. That's why Avraham Avinu came with the lashon of vayigash very strongly toward HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because he says, I don't understand. Ha'af tispe equals also dina de malchusa dina. Why do you have to go with the midas adin? Go with my midah, which is afar va'efer. You have a choice. It's exactly the same gematria, 631. And it's your choice, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to choose between the din of the malchus or to turn them into afar va'efer. When you break the gaiva or the source of what pushed someone to be a Baal Gaiva, he becomes an honor. He becomes afar va'efer. He used to be, look at a rich guy, Nebuch, when he, Chalila v'chas, to nobody, should happen to no one. When he loses his fortune, he turns out to be more humble than the humble. He's broken. For sure he's broken. Because in him, he has a void. He had a big place. His biggest place inside was for the gaiva. Now it's gone. So he has a void. Instead of understanding that this is only a consequence, a toiva that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to him, not to have him come to the Olam HaEmes with the gaiva and with the chataim that it engendered because of this wealth. That's the reason. There's no other reason. Mimela, now we see the pasuk through a different light. Avraham Avinu come rushed and he's there is a way. You have a choice. You don't have to exterminate. You have to remove what you gave them, and you have to break their gaiva. At that point, they're going to be afar va'efer, like dead. So why going with an extreme measure when you can achieve both goals with the same maaseh, and at the same time they're going to do tshuva? And that's why Avraham went very strong on it. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.